Hi, I'm Scott, and I'm going to show you how I made this ceiling fan on Dad It Yourself. So many of you know that I actually served in the United States Navy for 21 years. And one of the aircraft I worked on was the P-3 Orion. Picture of it right here. And the big thing about the P-3 was it was a 4-bladed propeller aircraft. And people have an affinity and they have a love for that aircraft. So I had a little extra time on my hands and I decided maybe I could model one of those propellers because there just wasn't one out there. I searched through all the different 3D printing resources and couldn't find a really good model of the P-3 propeller. So I modeled one up and that turned into this one right here. And this at the time was the maximum size of the printer I had, which is the Bamboo Labs A1. And I was able to make the pieces, glue it together, sand it, and painted it. And I liked this. I thought, maybe I can do it bigger. So that turned into this one. And I was able to get a bigger printer and make a bigger one. And I started showing this off in some of my veterans group. And somebody said, can you make that into a ceiling fan? Because this is about 2 feet, and that's the size of a ceiling blade. And this is what I came up with. This is a ceiling blade fan that is completely encased in a 3D printed skin. And I used the fan blade for the rigidity of it and the engineering of how it's connected to the fan. This is just how you bolt everything together, and we'll talk about that later. So this project's based around this ceiling fan. It's a Hampton Bay Littleton II 42-inch fan that I got from the Home Depot for about $44. Once I decided on what fan I had, then I could start prototyping. Boy, did I start prototyping. Not just this, but all this. Okay, so here are all the parts that I have printed to modify the fan blades. With my new Bamboo Labs H2S printer, I'm able to print this piece, which is really nice. This is almost 300 millimeters top to bottom. And what I've done is you take the fan blade, black on one side, printed on the other, and you just slide it in. I'm going to put black down. I have it labeled up so I know what side. And then we're just going to go till it's snug on the blade right there. And then the next part, take the bracket that comes with the fan. I've discarded the screws that come with it and replaced them. So what this does, there's enough flexibility in here that I can get up and over that bracket and then I can snap it down onto there. There it is like that. And then take this wedge, which goes inside here, and that fills that little flexibility gap I just had, makes this a little bit firmer. Now the top goes on, and I have 3 screws that replace that. A 12 millimeter M5 and a 16 millimeter M5. Whoop, put that in the wrong hole. Put that one in there, that one in there. Go ahead and tighten those down. There. And then I have 2 machine screws that go in here, and they tie the top half of the this is called cuff to each other, and ties this all together and makes it rigid. We're just going to screw those together nice and snug. Okay. And then I'm going to take this. This is the tip, and this is an insert. The fan blade only goes to about right here. So we have to extend this. And what I do is by putting this tongue on here, I'm just going to put a little glue on this tongue. We're going to slide it in here for a second. Like that. Just a little bit. But before we do that, we need to pull this one back a little. Okay. I'm going to get that back as far as we can. We're just going to put a little glue. Let's see if I can get a little bit more gap on that. There it goes. Glue in here. The only reason I'm putting a little glue in here is so this doesn't slide up. It will never fly off the end. The way the blade is shaped, it just won't do that. We'll just snap this back down. All the way in. Oh, there it goes. Nice and flat. Got the bracket in there. Nice and flat. There. I'm going to put a little glue in here. And this is imperative that you put the glue in here because otherwise this thing is just going to fly off into space. And get that on there. I should check it because there's definitely a left and a right on this one. I think it's this way. I should have dry fit that before we put it together. There it goes. There it is. A little bit more adjustment. I think I got a little gap there I got to fix. But in general, you can see here's the blade all put together. And just like that, I've assembled all 4 blades. And I made up a sticker kit for them that goes on here. I'm not a fan. I think some of my scaling is off. And they've already started peeling off. So this is going to be something I'm going to have to resolve, whether using a vinyl sticker or doing a direct print with my UV resin printer. So there's the blades. There's the motor. I think it's time to hook these up and see what happens. I built this simulated ceiling out of 2x4s. It is screwed all the way back into there, so it's cantilevered out. It is relatively strong. And then I have mounted the fan on here. I wired it up with some Wagos, and I put a speed controller on it because, frankly, I don't want to be standing next to this thing because I have no idea what's going to happen. But as you can see, I have power. So we're going to start with the slowest setting, and then we're going to go all the way up to the fastest this thing will go. And I just have to figure out what those buttons are, what those chains need to be pulled. Okay, I'm going to put the blades on this thing now. Okay, so before we test this thing out, I just want to say a couple of things. Projects like this are expensive. You know, I have a lot invested in 3D filaments and buying the fan and the time. So I would ask that you consider becoming one of my channel members, becoming a Patreon, or giving me a super thanks, or definitely just by supporting my Etsy channel or buying any of my merchandise will really help me out so I can keep bringing projects like this to you. Okay, here we go. I'm going to stand up the back. Light on, light off, good. Okay, here comes the fan. Okay. Speed it up. And try again. That's... First impressions. I think it's going about as fast as a regular fan would go. These blades are like add another pound to each blade. So I've added about 4 pounds of weight to this fan. So the motor's only as good as the motor can be. But it looks really balanced. That's the great thing about 3D printing. As you can see, there's like almost no vibrations whatsoever. So I'm pretty happy with that. Now we got to check out what it looks like with the spinner on it. So I've got the aft spinner ring on there, and you have to take off all the blades to put that on there. So during the installation, that step will actually be part of the blade installation. The other thing I found out though, is this light kit hangs down too low. So we have to pull that off. Part of my kit, I'll probably make a lid that goes in there and fits in that, and then we'll investigate maybe a light kit for the future for this. So I've got everything put together with the spinner on there. Looks really good. I don't have the, what would be the pump housing cover on the propeller because I actually needed to mount this to see what this distance was right here. But let's go ahead and turn it on and check it out with the spinner cover on. So as you can see, the labels started peeling up, so that was not a solution. But I also have a Eufy Make E1 resin printer, and that prints perfectly right on there. So I think I'm going to start printing all the graphics on these prior to assembly. So printing the labeling or the stenciling on the props was definitely the way to go. This looks so much better than that sticker. And remember, not for aircraft use. Let's get this thing put together, and we're going to talk about the light kit a little bit later. I think that does it for the test. I think it's time to actually put it in the room it's going to go in. All right, so I have this installed per the manufacturer's directions. I've got that bulb turned down dim so we can see what's going on. And as you can see, the fan is running, the bulb is on. I've got the chains tied up. We're not going to need those, but a point of housekeeping before we go any further. Whoa, almost lost my footing there. Make sure the chain is pulled for the fan so it's on the full speed, and then the light chain is pulled so it's on, and then the season switch is in the down position, so that will have the fan turn in the counterclockwise position so that it looks right with the propeller blades. Oh, and one thing I forgot to talk about, that black box right there is the remote control. It doesn't fit up in there like you would if you had a hanging fan that had a bigger dome on it, but that fits within the ring I have that goes up there, and if it doesn't, it'll definitely fit inside the main cover. I had to do that because I only have a single switch here. There's only a black wire and a white wire, If I had a red wire up there, I wouldn't need that, and I can control the fan and light from a switch over there. So the mounting ring is installed, and it goes into the metal bracket provided by the manufacturer with 4 M4 screws. And then, I don't know if you can see it, but it's keyed. See, there's a little slot there. And on the cover, there's a matching slot. So we go ahead and we put that on. And then this is mounted up there with 8 1/4" black threaded screws. This light fixture will not fit inside the dome, so it has to be removed. And what you do is you take out, there's 3 screws, keep those, and then pull this down and cut the white wire, leaving yourself as much as possible, because you're going to either put a wire nut on those and tuck them back up in, or you're going to put the light kit on that I have for sale as well. So I'm going to put the light kit on here because this is the only light in this room. Light kit's installed, and it's really easy. It's just black to black, white to white. And if you choose not to use the light kit, I have this cover that will come with the kit that you can just stick over that opening to hold all those wires in place. So the easiest way I found to install this is to use a couple of pieces of tape to hold that aft shroud up against the ceiling, because eventually it's going to pop down and sit on top of the blades. Okay, so there's 2 kinds of cones. This one comes with the kit, so no light kit. And this one goes, snaps up here, just like that, and then uses 4 metal screws to go on. But again, this is the only light I have in the room, so I have this one right now. I'm still working on the dome to get it a little clearer, but in general, when this thing ships, you'll be able to order this as an option. There's the light. And let's go ahead and turn the fan on. Hey, I'm a huge fan of this project, and I'll have a link in the description of all the parts and pieces I use to get one of these, and when it's ready for sale, there'll be a link to my Etsy store. If I've done anything in this video, or any of my other videos that you found helpful, consider becoming a channel member, giving me a super thanks, or becoming one of my patrons. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, put those down below. Speaking of comments, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And if you do, hit the bell for notification. I've got some videos over here you're probably going to be interested in. Subscribe button's right over here. Thanks for watching. Dad it yourself.